Hi, Aron. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, why don't you give us a quick introduction of what you do and what you work on?
Okay, so my background is in mathematics. I did a PhD in algebraic topology, but I'm here today because I work with Colony, which is one of the projects on Ethereum building the decentralized governance kind of project. Um, and yeah, so I'm really fascinated in just to see what these new technologies can do, just because I grew up with the internet and I remember all the optimism from the 1990s and see how it all went south. And now there's a renewed optimism because we've got these new tools and maybe we can, realize on those promises that were lost.
Do you feel like this kind of carries the torch of some of that optimism, the same optimism from when the internet started?
Yeah, it certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
Like the original promise was this decentralized network in which everyone's equal, this global playing field on which it doesn't matter what country you're from, and we now know that's no longer true. Mm-hmm. And everyone can publish the same way, everyone can have a voice, but instead we've got these big walled gardens that control, control everything is happening and no interoperability. So yeah, there is that renewed optimism, although I don't want to say everything's going to be rosy, and I just read a really nice article of somebody ranting about how much he hates the blockchain space because everyone's so optimistic, and it's like, have they learned nothing? And which is a valid point. These technologies aren't going to be just used for good; they're also going to be used for evil, as everything else is. But I see the sort of centralization of power in companies like Facebook and Google, which are humongous, so much bigger than anything we've had before. That's a real threat. And, we might not see it yet because they're spying on everything only so that they can sell ads. I mean, it's a tragedy, right? We're building this global Orwellian surveillance network just so we can sell ads. But, especially now we're here in Berlin, it's like the topic resonates because people here have had experience with, several iterations of surveillance states and totalitarian systems and know of these dangers. And, I'm not going to say that Google is evil, but I'd prefer it if we didn't have one big Google.
So what's your best description of distributed governance?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, that can mean many things to many people. So I want to focus just on the very narrow context of what we're building and with Colony in terms of Ethereum. Because what is new that the web didn't have? The web opened up this global communications platform, and we could all talk to each other suddenly, and everyone could publish, and that opened up, for new opportunities for global scale cooperation, like never before seen, and things like Wikipedia. It's amazing. We've gotten so used to it, but all it required was people being able to input text, and we've got this. It made encyclopedias cool again. Nobody would ever have expected that to be a possibility, right? But what the web didn't have was a business model that worked. The only thing we've discovered was spy on everyone and try to sell the data to advertising. And Facebook didn't start out wanting to become a surveillance company, neither did Google. It's just that's the only way we know how to make a big business on the internet or, on web content. And now we've got new technologies coming where a video packet going one way and a payment going the other could be the one and exact same data stream. So just on an infrastructural level, it opens up whole new business models that we don't even know yet. But everyone in the space sort of senses that there's a huge potential, even though we don't quite know what that's going to be. And the governance projects in this space note that we can encode rules for transferring funds that give you a guaranteed procedure. Like we can't, it's not the content of a governance system that we can have any say about, but we can guarantee the procedure that whatever democratic rules or, whatever rules you can come up with, dream up with, you can be guaranteed that they will be executed. And that's a very powerful thing. Maybe, we sense it less in a country with a strong legal system where you can always sue someone or make, sure that the state will enforce some contract. But this is global and works in very corrupt countries and in Western, well-governed countries just the same, and allows you to really cooperate, go into business with strangers, just the way that the web in the 90s allowed you to communicate with a stranger. So it's going to do for business and contracts what the web did for communication. And sort of trying to find structures there that channel collective people's wills into action. That's what distributed governance in this space is about, in the most general sense. The structures that take input from people and convert it to actions. Yeah.
What do you think is the most promising model of distributed governance?
I'm biased. I work for Colony, I think. So, well, I can, let me not answer that. Let me answer what I think Colony brings to the table that maybe the others don't. When we design Colony, we are thinking very much of a dynamic system that constantly allocates resources to get things done. Like in our capitalist society, allocating funds to something is how you get stuff done. It's not about putting up a proposal, I propose this happens, we all vote on it, we agree, yeah, it's great, that should happen, and then nothing. So Colony is built as an engine to continually allocate funds, and the members of Colony can steer these funds. You can't, it's not so much about stopping or starting, or you don't need to ask for permission. Like, it's constantly allocating things to this department, to that department, to this project, to that project, and everyone has an input of trying to influence where these funds get reallocated and is constantly adapting. But it's sort of a very dynamic system. So, whereas, other systems, they're stalled, they're completely static until somebody makes an action and it gets voted on, and that's sort of the step by which the systems operate. And we say, no, let's not go that way. We're not going to, vote on complex proposals with a lot of text for humans to influence, because we can already, that's a separate question. All this is going to do is constantly allocate funds to projects and be very dynamic about it. And then people steer it one way or the other, and we'll see where they take it.
So you're trying to capture that kind of emergent intelligence in real time and allow it to dictate where funds go and which projects get selected.
Yeah, it's delightfully self-referential, right? So when funds get allocated to people in the colony, then if they do the tasks they said they would, they will earn reputation points, which in turn let them direct funds. So like at any one time, the whole body of reputation points decides how it itself evolves over time. Yeah, but collective intelligence is an overused term because people use it to mean all kinds of things, but in essence, yes, that's what this is all about. The idea of colony came from the idea of an ant colony, right? Every little ant might only know about its little task, but collectively you can solve big problems that are much bigger than any one ant can imagine.
So why is distributed governance important to you? Why do you believe it's needed in our society?
Well, it's a hard one. It's on so many levels. I believe that in the intelligence of people as a whole, and so I don't trust big institutions, especially not when they come with a business model. Like, you can trust every corporation to be profit maximizing, but that's all there is. They respond directly to their incentives, and that's what they do. And anything that doesn't directly influence their bottom line, they will not be able to attend to that strong. Within limited sense, but we've got global problems that require global solutions that none of these institutions we have so far are capable of addressing. And the only, so the real, phrase that's sort of flying in the background here is collective action, the collective action problem, right? And the tragedy of the commons. Like that should be our target. When we're building these systems, we want to address the commons and allow somehow, systems to be able to address, collective action problems. And I think when you look up collective action problem in like the economics literature, I think they get something wrong. Like the tragedy of the commons is written as, if everyone else does their part, then I don't need to, so therefore I don't have to do that. But I think that sort of the other side is much more interesting, is like saying, I totally want to do my part, but I want everyone else to join in as well, right? So people would love to work on projects and helping out and doing their little bit, but you don't want to be the one guy who goes and cleans up trash somewhere because, you want to be part of a bigger structure where everyone's working together. And the tools that we're building allow you to just start a project like that and get support and have more people join in, and generates its own momentum. And you're no longer just a lone voice in the wilderness, because you're part of this organization that you can build and grow, and that keeps track of who did what. I mean, it's no longer an anonymous donation of time that nobody will ever hear about, but we can reward you for starting early. Like whatever we're coding, whether it's financial or reputation system or just upvotes. I mean, it's amazing how much people will do for fake internet points, right? Like, I mean, we laugh about it, but it's true. It's like sometimes all we need is the recognition that we did something and nothing more. So, all these tools we've learned in the last 20 years of the internet, we're not getting rid of those. We're just adding the capabilities that the blockchain offers, which is guaranteed enforceable procedure and democratic control of resources. And then let's see what that extra tool allows us to do. Sometimes you don't need to go 100%, just need to get 80% of the way there, and see how things move from there.
What do you think are the biggest risks in implementing these systems?
Well, it's not about the risk in implementing them, it's a risk how people will use them.
Yes.
Right? They can be used for extremist political groups, just as to organize a large mob of people to smash windows and attack people. It's just as it's just a coordination tool, and if you coordinate a large group of people, you can coordinate around pretty terrible ideas. Yeah. And we as a society will have to learn how to defend ourselves against that, probably by counter-mobilizing. And the dynamics of this are not benevolent. It's just that what we have now with very, very centralized corporate power over huge social networks is also not benevolent. So when we talk about decentralizing, it's about breaking up monopolies to make a more dynamic marketplace for ideas and structures and activity. But that's not benevolent in itself. It's just a different playing field that's maybe more dynamic than what we have now. But the real work comes after we've built these tools. It's not done at that point.
And what do you think are some of the biggest barriers for us to get there?
Oh, technological. It's just really hard to interact with these systems. You have to have a high level of technical sophistication. Securing your keys is hard. Securing a file, nobody's ever learned that. And now we need to train people to write down passphrases after telling them for decades never to write down their passwords. Anyway, it requires a complete new way of thinking about interacting with computers. Our hardware isn't there yet. The software isn't. The whole Silicon Valley mentality of write code quickly and break things. It's complete anathema to writing smart contracts that actually handle money. We need different kinds of programming languages that are hard to write. That you really have to study and learn so you can make formal guarantees of what they do. So, just on the development side, there's challenges. On the user interface side, there's challenges. On the end devices. So the technological hurdles are immense. Having said that, they were also for the internet. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, now everyone uses TCP/IP and HTTP, and they don't know how any of that works. They don't have to. And my hope is that in 20 years we'd all be using these blockchain services and not have to know about how they work. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest opportunities if we do succeed in installing these new systems?
Well, addressing global problems is a global polity. Right now we're too fragmented, and it's really hard to mobilize internationally. We've grown together as a global society, and that'll continue this process. And we realize just how limited our planet is, and how we're all in this together. And these would give us tools to actually act together. It's not just about passing resolutions and deciding things. It's about really actually doing things. And that would be my hope.
So what's your vision for the future?
Oh boy, I don't like to address that because I can come up with positive visions and negative ones just the same. Maybe it's
something we can aspire to, something we can work towards.
Let me think about a good one. well, I don't know how to say that. What I really want to get is where if you're interacting with a system, it's no longer that. It's on a fundamental level, you no longer feel like a client. You're not like the client of a customer, but you're really a participant. And I know ownership seems like we're talking about property, but when I say people feel ownership of the project, I mean like this is me doing something, and like to really feel that you're part of it and not just interacting with something somebody else does and somebody else offers you. But I mean, I know that's very abstract, but you know, I really did like that idea in the 90s that it doesn't matter where you are, because when you're in cyberspace, as it was called then, you know, everyone's the same, and it doesn't matter whether you access the web from Somalia or Zimbabwe or New York. And we've slowly started breaking that up, and we've got different censorship regimes in different areas. And like when China blocks access for content for political reasons, we're all up in arms because that's evil. But when our companies block access for economic reasons, saying we don't want this movie to be seen in Europe yet, then that's totally fine. Because like, I want to get to the infrastructural level where you can no longer do that. Like where you can either make something available to everyone in the world or you can't. Like, and we are getting there on the technological level to enable that. You can no longer fine-grain your censorship. You can either turn it on or off. I mean, that's the best we can hope for. And the same thing goes for political participation. If someone somewhere has something to contribute, like their time, their effort, or has something to say, then they should be able to do that, and there should be no hurdle, like an ease of entry in that. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of, you know, not so much a vision. It's just a vague principle. Like that's the direction we need to be going, because we've been going in the other direction, the fragmentation, the building up of walled gardens, and I think that's harmful. So if we want to really harness this global network, that's what we'll need.
What's the most interesting thing that has emerged for you from this conference? Something you learned, something you discussed?
No, I don't think there's any one thing. It's just, it's been really interesting to talk to people who are not in this blockchain bubble like I am. You know, you talk to people who have more of a social science background or a philosophy background and legal background. Like lawyers have a surprising amount to say in this space, and really interesting perspective, because, you know, a lot of the early, like, cypherpunk kind of aficionados, they like to ignore all law and state and say, oh, we don't need it anymore, we just use code, and just dismiss this entire, you know, field of study. But there's a lot of interesting comments you get from lawyers, and I find especially interesting that a lot of the people who are in law, who are studying DAOs and decentralized governance and this stuff, they all came from copyright law, because copyright law was the big battlefield from the web in the 90s. Like, we can suddenly publish things and copies no longer are meaningful, and now we've got this clash of, you know, common sense versus the law in publishing. And they're moving over into this institutional design and DAO space, because that's the next frontier where the new technologies will clash with, you know, current designs. Yeah, and so I think that's really fascinating. And I've enjoyed the conversations here with everyone.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.